Hello and welcome. This is our recording for our final game. We're currently at the main menu level. So let me just pull up the Google Doc separately for what I need to record, what I need to specifically point out. This game in particular, it's been quite a bit of fun to make. It's nice to have a game with a lot of different features compared to last time, have a lot more things like vertical movement and spawning in enemies that are swarms of enemies, stuff like that. Stuff that was, for me particularly, was really fun. But we do have a long list of things to go through on this Word doc. Plus, I am sick right now, or mostly still sick a little bit. So every once in a while, I may need to cough. So that's just a warning ahead of time. But first thing the thing wants to ask about is Game Manager. It's probably going to pull it up on the other monitor, but contains a game monitor that is a singleton, describes what the singleton pattern is and how we created it in Unity. Yeah, it's here, it's mono behavior. That's the important thing for something like that. Um, Beyond that, it is something that will not be destroyed upon load. Don't destroy this on load. So when we load it in a new level, the important thing is that it does not destroy itself, and that one is what makes it a singleton. So because it will stay consistent through all the levels. Game Manager contains an FSM that controls the game state, sort of. That's more something I actually kind of gave to other parts, but things like this, basically, this will kind of be like, oh, is it the main level? Then sure, yeah, we'll spawn in a new player, and he'll go through that whole process of spawning in the player and hooking them up and adding them to the list. Beyond that, the game manager prefab has some audio stuff and sound change that will actually change based on the level from main menu, game over, and the windscreen. Game Manager keeps an up-to-date list of useful objects such as controllers or pawns. It definitely does. Where is that at? Public list player controller players. Yeah, so when you spawn a new player, it just boom, instantly adds them to that list. What's next? Utilizes the pawn controller with inherit. Game utilizes pawn controller pattern with inheritance. Controller, yep. All right, let's just find those. Ooh, I really am dying. Scripts, controller. So controller's a mono behavior, just has a simple start, update, and a pawn. And then if we go down to something like player controller, it gets all these wonderful little inputs. But most importantly, besides all the extra stuff it has, it is coming from controller. So it still counts as a controller and AI controller. This basically makes it to where you can fill in controller slots with either of these. And obviously they both function very differently, where this one has all the different states and it's doing all this stuff to target the player and chase them and all that kind of nonsense. It honestly probably has a lot more code because it's a 6 state, idle state, all that kind of stuff. Um, Probably should unpin some of these just so they don't get in our way as much. I don't want to exit out, but I just want to not have them pinned. Okay, cool. Um, Pawn controllers. Yep, let's look at pawns then. Where is pawn? Scuba pawn, pawn. So once again, same situation. Pawn is a mono behavior. Has quite a few things actually in it when you really look at it. All this kind of rotation and all that stuff. Scuba pawn. Yep. These are the ones that it specifically wanted me to show. Once again, same situation, just so you can fill in a pawn slot, and then we have that same thing for movers, but we're not going to go too far into that because A, we just kind of wanted to keep this on a timely basis, making sure that we are recording, cool. And yeah, so the next thing it wants us to ask about is game utilizes pawn controller inheritance. Oh, we just read that. Uh, Video describes the OOP, Pinchapulu of inheritance, and what it means. We've kind of already been doing that. In addition, with pawn controller and mono behaviors, so we've been talking about that for this entirety. Just basically, you get the same attributes that you would have in the original pawn, which is why for a lot of starts you can do base dot start, so you can copy what was in the original, plus the fact that you can just fill in any single pawn slot with another pawn that's a child of pawn, and same thing for things like mover and controller. It's just about being able to constantly use them in those places. Next thing it wants to know about is AI and players utilize same pawn code and core components. They only differ in controller data. Yep. We kind of already just showed that, but let me just see if they're already here. So player controller once again, boom, controller. Or is it asking controller or is it asking pawn? Pawn. It's asking about pawn. Yeah. Okay, right. We can show it better in the prefab actually then, because they are using that. Prefab. So Scuba Guy has a lot of stuff on him now. Scuba Pawn, Scuba Mover, Scuba Shooter, all that kind of stuff. Noisemaker, Health, Power Generator, all that kind of stuff. So what's it asking specifically again? Utilize the same pawn core component. So Scuba Pawn, yep. If we go to the shark enemy, which is just one of the three kinds of shark enemies we have, it's kind of sad that it's not like loading in their images because that would have helped me. Like I can look at the Megalodon because it's the same thing but just bigger. Yeah, if we look at this, still has Scuba Pawn. So yeah, they both use the same Scuba Pawn. It just uses AI controller rather than player controller. Where this one doesn't even have player controller directly on it because you just spawn it in through the game manager. Game uses one or more timers used in class. Maybe as I explained, yep. There's quite a few timers actually. If we go over to main, I can actually show it a bit better there, or I can at least point it out a bit better. I don't need to do that. I can just find the prefabs that they use. So we have quite a few generators. Enemy generator. So if we look at that, we have these spawn points. I use a random spawner, spawn delay. So that's already a timer right there. You can spawn that awake. And the delay is currently at a 3 second point. So if we go find the random spawner, scripts, random spawner. I don't know where I put it at right now. Where were you? You're just out here? Because I am way too sick to really read right now. You might technically be in like pickups because you're kind of based off of pickup spawner. Just so I can use a array rather than something else. Yeah. That's something I was like, I could leave it out of here. I could leave it in there. So we're using the whole time next spawn time equals time dot time plus spawn delay. For some reason we're doing that at void start. Oh, next spawn time equals that. Okay. I see it now. I see now. Okay. Cool. And then you're doing a lot of that. Just if spawn pickup equals null, then if the top, it's basically meaning if the spawn has been picked up, then you'll generate a new one, and it'll only ask that after a certain amount of time. Otherwise, spawn time equals spawn plus spawn delay. So it's only going to be doing it every 3 seconds, or however much you set your delay to. We do also have a couple other generators, but those are mainly trying to think of what else has a timer directly on. Oh, ooh, our fire point. Where does that shooter come from? Prefab. Because our player has one when they shoot. So they have a fire rate. So Scuba Shooter has one. Script. Scuba Shooter. This one has a timer in it. This has a lot of weird stuff going on because visibility of the piece has a for each in it, though it's not working exactly as you would like it to, but it's for each piece in the harpoon. It makes it no longer visible. Basically, once again, timer if time is less than next fire, you're able to fire. So once again, being a timer there right away, that is 2 instances of a timer, which I believe is all it wanted to see. Um, one or more timers. Oh, just one or more. Okay. Has start and game over screens. We do. I guess I can show that before we actually start playing the game. We're through a lot of these without playing the game, which is always interesting. So I guess this becomes a video where we play the game afterwards, which I'm fine with. Uh, Scenes. The level of how sick I am right now is actually really coming out. I guess we were already so we have a lose screen with a play button and an exit button, win screen, play button, exit button, main menu screen, play button, exit button, and then main is the actual game. Has UI that displays, uses images and text components, and exporting game values that change our gameplay. We actually get to play the game now. Alrighty. So, besides just the obvious that main menu stuff, nonsense, I'm gonna take my headphones out because the volume is at a bit high right now, just so we can play the game normally. But this also gets where we get to see some of the other stuff. The next thing on the list besides this is uses world space, world overlay. Presentation includes collection of anchors, pivots, and rectangle points. Cool. We'll get to that in a second. So I actually did have to change the pivot point on this one before I started playing this. So as you can see, that is a score that increases. I didn't have the score text next to it saying it's a score. Oh geez. And yeah, so the more things blow up, the more things you get hit. You also notice that you have your health on your back as your air tank. I considered for a while having it to where you just automatically lose air as you play the game, but for the sake of simplicity of creating this game, I decided not to. Jeez, okay guys, get off me. Holy, let me just zen. So there is some gravity still, but it's very lowered. You hit right into these, boom. You lose a bit of health. Go into one of these air bubbles, bomb, you gain some health, and you also get some score. And you can kind of keep doing this for a while. You also have this bubble UI that kind of keeps appearing behind you, but if you ever decide just to run into the treasure chest, which appears currently after 10 seconds, you get to a win screen. I'm also really happy that I figured out how to do a score resetter. I have a whole new thing for that. As you can see, they also have their own health bars above the head. They can be kind of hard to hit them because their mouths have a hitbox too, and they can eat your projectiles. But when you blow them up, they turn into like these giant blood splatters. So we have, yeah, we've showed the what was the two things you say? UI displays and images and text components. Yeah, because these are images being all this stuff. A, the screens. B, the health bars. Are they're both images, and then you have some text up here. Nice, nice. I'm kind of trying to die right now, so if you guys can kill me a bit faster, that'd be nice. Let me go over to this form of minnows. And boom, when you lose, you go to this, you can play your exit again. The exit button is currently set to an application quit. So unless you're playing a built-out version of the game, it doesn't quite function. Though of course in our sake, we can just press the play button up here and be like, oh, we're out of it. Okay, cool. Um, so we've already explained world space and screen space overlays. So yeah, we have world space and screen space overlays. So stuff like this. Oh geez, where's my mouse? Is a screen space overlay. Let me turn on the camera just so it's there. This is a screen space overlay, and it's there. It's text that will write itself out as the score increases. Very importantly, it has a pivot point, which I actually had to correct before filming this, so it is now right up there. So rather than being centered, so that pivot point is right up there. Whereas if I go to somewhere like main menu, the canvas itself, the images, the buttons, they're all center based. So it kind of stretches and does stuff like that way rather than doing it corner because these are supposed to be in the center. You could arguably change these to something more like this or like that, but we want to keep them as centered as possible. Um, where are we at then? World space and that. Next is video presentation includes explanation of how anchors pivot. Yep, we just talked about that. Has option screen. We do not have an option screen at all. Has at least one camera chain setting via code. Not quite exactly. Could argue that if you really want to, that this is a different camera setting, and then when you load into the new level, boom, instantly new camera. Plus, you do have the camera just following the player in general, so depends what this quite defines as camera code. Was just asking at least one camera setting that changes via code. So probably not, but it is there. AI must include seek, flee, and patrol with steering. I'll be honest, they really only have seeking. That is kind of what they're here for. They do not have a reason to run away. We could look at that code again in a second, but if you play this game, you are fighting sharks. These things I call minnows. These things I call megalodons, and then there's this little boy right here I call just a shark enemy. And there's a bunch of spawners, and when they die, they spawn in more sharks. They get here really fast sometimes. Sometimes you're just right by where the spinning spawners are, because they keep spinning as the game goes on. But if you look at this, where's the AI controller? They're really only seeking you. Um, it's like a matter of if they can hear you, where you at? Can't hear, can see, and then they will just hunt you down. So they realistically only have a seek state, and that's how they're functioning at the moment. AI must use hearing and vision conditions for that. I do. I actually ran into an issue for a while since I didn't have the noisemaker included, that they weren't at all chasing the enemy. So once again, as you can see, the can see, can hear are very important. So can hear, noisemaker equals target get component noisemaker. If noisemaker equals no, return false. If the volume distance is greater than zero, idle. Well, sorry, less than or equal to zero, idle. Um, if where is the other option? Hmm. Less than zero, flow distance equals hearing distance. ah, hearing distance if vector spawn transmission is less than total distance. So it's the hearing distance, get the volume distance. If the distance is less than the total distance, it will seek the enemy out. Otherwise, it will idle. Can see is agent to vector. Vector transformation gets float angle upon forward if angle target is equals field of view. Otherwise, it will shoot. Though it doesn't actually have access to shooting right now because I basically disabled the shooting function because they now just ram you and try to eat you. Alrighty. I was seeing and hearing. Game contains at least two personalities for controllers that are FSM. These include inheritance, core actions, comparing controls different SSMs. Not really. So with that, we do have our three different kinds of enemies, but realistically, they're all running on the same code. They just have different speeds, different power, different amounts of health. So saying they have different personalities could be a bit of a stretch because they're all just kind of trying to eat you. We all try to make a simple game for this one just because A, I'm sick. B, I just kind of need to get this done in all honesty. But yeah, boom, good couple shots. You could really rise kind of as high as you want. There's no reason to at a certain point. Like that air bubble right there is oh, hello minnows down there. It's probably about as high as you get. Also, I really love the electricity aesthetic it kind of chose for this game. For me, it's been very fun. I really enjoy it. And then whenever you collect a one of these, eventually in a couple seconds, a new one will spawn of either a random sea mine or air bubble. Though you can also kind of just blow up the sea mines if you want. So you just okay, and as kind of mentioned before, so when you're able to shoot, you will have another harpoon there, but if you can't shoot, it won't be there. Though I was kind of spamming, so it kind of just reappeared as I needed it to. So you have one that's just stationary. But yeah. Um, game uses at least one trigger. Oh, we have so many triggers. Oh my goodness. Like we have triggers for days. Triggers for days. Literally every single enemy. Um, Prefabs. Um, you just look at the scene. Trigger box. Damage on hit. Damage on hit goes like on collision enter. So on collision enter is going to happen a lot for that. Um, Air bubble. Wouldn't you know it? It's a trigger. What else? There's a lot of options, obviously. Not as many as you actually would think. But something even like this, where it's just the bite part, is a trigger. So you can eat the enemy. Quah, quah, quah. So yeah, a lot of triggers. A lot of triggers. Unless it wants a different kind of trigger, but that you would assume that you would word that differently on the thing. Because there's ways to trigger things like going to the windscreen, which is still a trigger for me. So this one is an on trigger, enter, win trigger. So go to a certain scene if you on collision enter, in this case, the windscreen. So either way, you're still triggering. Game uses sound, play clips at points. Yeah. So obviously a lot of sounds in this game. But yeah. Even when they blow up, when you hit them with your thing, because it leaves a tiny little electrical spark in its place. It's kind of right there. Yeah. Nice little amount of sound effects and whatnot. Game definitely uses sound in general. Um, oh, play a clip at point and sound source audio components. Well, of course we have sound source audio. So audio source, this is on the game manager for the most part, as well as being on any of the explosions and whatnot have their own audio source and their different settings and adjustments. Medium explosions, bigger explosions, tinier explosions, stuff like that. Game uses time.delta time. We've already gone over that a little bit, but yes, we do. Um, Random spawner is a good one to look at again. So once again, time.time. If time.time is greater than spawn next item, it will spawn that in. If the spawn item is already, if the spawn item equals null, and if the time.time is greater than next spawn time, then it'll spawn it in. Game uses transform.rotate, obviously. We use it in a couple different instances. Even the spin might technically count. Look at that. I don't. It's not the big thing I want to point out, but spin probably uses rotate. Update, transform, rotate, spin speed. So right there, even our spin is technically using rotate. And then if we just go to movement, scuba mover, stuff like that. So transform, rotate, turn speed. So a lot of rotate that can happen in this game. Game uses input, get key down. That's probably in controller. Yeah. Process, get key. They all seem to just be get keys, but get key down. But I mean, there's differences. So there is get key move up, get key down for the shoot. So yeah, we do have both. Um, and yes, they are exposed variables. So if you go over to the prefab, so in our case, player controller, yeah, you can adjust it. You can also give it a specific pawn, I guess. WASD, well, WSDA in this case, because that is actually the correct order to do it in. For some reason, forward key, backwards key, clockwise key, counterclockwise key, and then space for the two, and then I have currently at mouse 0, mouse 1 for the move up and move down. Um, Must instantiate prefabs and destroy game objects. We are doing that so much, so much. So obviously you have just the instance of we go to our script, game manager, This one's instantiating some stuff. So instantiates a player controller, gets them together, hooks them up. Random spawner is always going to be instantiating a bunch of stuff. Um, even like our shooter, even our shooting projectiles, which I think is just a damage on hit. So if we go to damage on hit, mm-mm-mm-mm. This has things that it instantiates too, I'm pretty sure. That or it's something else that works alongside it. So yeah, instantiate what to spawn if what to spawn is not null, which is basically how you spawn explosions and stuff like that when things blow, whenever things get hit and destroyed. So not only do they do that, yep, they destroy game objects, so very important stuff. Um, and then even something like the wind trigger also has a destroy game object and then loads the scene. So plenty of ways to destroy objects, especially on health. Oh, we didn't even look at health yet. Yeah, if you go down to health, basically once your health is down to zero, so explode, add kill score. Um, if what to spawn is not equal, sorry, is not null, then it'll spawn the explosion of blood or whatever it is in your case. If game tag equals player, go to lose game. Otherwise, destroy game object. Add kill score. Basically, just add your score to the bonus to the game manager. Lose game. We'll load the game over level. Um, Essentially, prefabs uses randomization. We've already talked about that a lot. Random spawner. It's like our main thing for randomization. You get your list, you do whatever you want with it, you add however many you want. Let's just go look at main. Oh, that's not what we need. Scenes. Main. So we have quite a few spawners here. So spawn point. So this one's they only have two. So there's two of them, but they each have air bubble and sea mine in their random spawner, so they will spawn either two of these. Whereas the enemy spawners have three. So they have the minnows, shark enemy, megalodon, and they will constantly be randomizing between the three of them as they are all just using randomized spawners. So random spawner will add a wake. If a wake equals true, it will pick a random prefab of range 0 to random prefab length. And then it'll spawn one of them. And then it will do the same thing on update if the spawn pickup equals null. So if the spawn is already there, if the enemy's still there, if the item is still there, it will not spawn a new one. Whatever you try to spawn before, that thing that previously spawned still exists. It will know it, and it will not spawn anything new. Game uses at least one for each loop. There is a for each loop in here. I don't think it actually works the way I wanted it to because I had to keep changing it. We looked at it before. I'm trying to remember where it was at. It had something to do with me shooting. Prefab, player. Something about this stationary in place one. Hmm. Or maybe there's something on this character that has to do with the in place. Scuba shooter. So it would be in scuba shooter, scripts. Uh, Gosh, I'm still sick and dying. Anywho, so we have a for each loop, but obviously there's not one in the else because we realized the for each was kind of not working for us. So I was trying to do it for each piece in the in the harpoon pieces. But it just wasn't working, so I just kind of ended up having to write it out for the renderer being enabled or not able to make the thing appear or disappear. It just kind of is what happened. But yeah, game uses the loop and explains how it works. There's bound to be a loop. Oh, there is a loop in here. So it's in the updates usually. So got something like random spawner. This is technically a loop of sorts. Um, where it just keeps updating it. So it held ifs and just updating and looping through it until eventually you spawn in a new one, constantly asking if you want to spawn in a new one. Explain the following data types and show where they're used: int, float, string, lists, class. So I don't think we really have any ints in here because we're never really needing the solid value, though ints is basically just a simpler way to do floats, though most games can handle floats really easily and you don't really need to use ints unless you're trying to use ints in particular. Because even with Unity, I've noticed that even if you use floats for your numbers, it won't put all the point zero zero zeros in the text, which I know other things I've had issues with before. But yeah, ints are just simple numbers. Floats, um, really, they're good for a lot of things, but basically the entire point of a float is that it is a number that can do as basically as many decimals as you want. Not technically, but like a lot of decimals. String, we use a lot of the strings mainly for things like our buttons and our UI changes. So something something like our score update is a update if the game manager does not know, getting the text, which is from that to then convert to string, game, and then convert to string to be the game manager kill score. Another good example, of course, is just our base button, which will has a public string scene name, and then when the button is clicked, it will do a load scene of that scene name. So strings are really good for purposes like that, or putting text on screen, stuff like that. Lists, we don't really have any lists that I'm aware of. Oh, we do actually. We have our list of players. We have boom, yeah. So our list of players, which can make it really good for enemies to grab where you are in the list, especially if you spawned in first. So you can be like, oh, grab list number 0 or player 1 technically, and be like, yep, we're gonna hunt that person down. Class. Oh, public class. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so a lot of them just go off mono behavior. When you have something like mover, we'll just pin that actually, and scuba mover, which is not exactly the best example, but basically if you made multiple movers off of scuba mover, you could put either of them in a mover based slot or a mover based class, so where the class of mover is needed, which can give you a bit more diversity as well as keeping your code streamlined so you don't have to make the code separate and unique for each kind of class, but just as long as they both derive from mover, they should both work correctly. Where are we at? What else do we need? Bug error free, common to standard is project organization game is well polished, portfolio ready. So a lot of general comments throughout the place, a lot of things that are very simple. A lot of these are also just old code. A lot of these have actually been cleaned up, so there's code now that used to be button based because I figured out how to get the UI stuff working better. Trying to think of something that's new, so something like this, that's new. Score update has a bit of stuff in here, so updates it per frame. Just for some general project organization, if we go up to assets, we have art as a folder, extra stuff as a folder, which is yes, I see. It is all the HDRP stuff. So why don't we name that F2 HDRP stuff? Because for this game, I went the 3D HDRP route. There it goes. It's saving prefabs, scenes, strips, sounds, text mesh pro because we also have text mesh pro in here. Um, Gave us well polished portfolio ready. I would say so. It's not really for my portfolio though because I am a game art animation student, but it is ready. And we'll play through the game real quickly though. Oh, we're in main, aren't we? Ah, that's not really playing the game properly then. Scene, main menu. Alrighty. Yeah. So the initial thought though otherwise could be for the treasure chest to spawn in after like 60 seconds. so you still just stay alive. That as well as just making sure your health has to actually be not your health, yeah, making sure your health actually decreases just as the game goes on. So you have to keep oh jeez. See how big the sharks are. This one little minnow got away ahead of the crowd. To be fair, most of the minnows are actually really independent from one another. There's like a select group of like five that just kind of stick together though. If you blow one of them up, you blow all of them up. But yeah, it might need another additional hitbox. Yeah, game could use some more work if I were to actually make it for portfolio ready or just getting it ready in general. There's a lot more vast open space than there probably needs to be. But overall, it was a pretty good time, fun time to make, despite being sick and kind of just not like being. I don't know if we can actually. Let's just open. Oh yeah, we have our debug log that we win the game. Let's jump into the leave screen as we kind of just finish off this video. For a coding class, I'm pretty happy with this because I'm not a coding student, so it is what it is. Overall, I had a pretty fun time making this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.